As if she's reciting incantations from a Harry Potter novel, Dawn Bennett casts a spell over SEC investigators trying to topple her $20 million Ponzi scheme. Yes, this was a lady who had mason jars full of cow tongues performing some sort of black magic in an effort to keep SEC investigators quiet. Somehow, this was the same woman who was able to get over $400 million from investors to manage for them. Dawn Bennett had been in the financial business long before becoming an infamous scammer. She began as a broker in 1987 at Wheat First Securities, a brokerage and institutional capital firm. Later, she registered with Legg Mason Wood Walker, a firm in which she was able to secure some of her most loyal clients. By 2006, she had started her own investment firm, Bennett Group Financial Services. By all accounts, her company ran a legitimate operation for years. Authorities claim that while it didn't operate illegally, it provided Bennett with a database of possible victims. Bennett established herself as a respected figure in the world of finance and achieved the ranking of 5th best woman to invest with in 2009, according to Barron's magazine. Barron's is a financial magazine run by Dow Jones and Company and considered the leading opinion on savvy investors in finance. Bennett was listed in the top 5 alongside women like Sally Glassman of Merrill Lynch, one of the biggest investment firms in the U.S., among others. To solidify her presence, Bennett created Financial Myth-Busting with Dawn Bennett, a radio show that began airing on AM radio in Washington, D.C. and Maryland. Her radio show helped her reach an untapped market she soon realized would be a gateway for her business ideas. She would cover a wide variety of topics centering around the economy, politics, and personal finances. She featured interviews with popular writers and opinion makers on her show. Interviews with experts from MSNBC, the Coolidge Foundation, and notorious investment firms across the nation made it a space where ordinary people could understand finance, social issues, and politics. While her show had a limited broadcast range, it was a popular channel in the DC, Maryland AM radio area. She had a mixed bag of guests, ranging from authors to financial analysts. Her topics were quite interesting, which is how she developed a loyal following. Since most of her topics were directed towards people with stable income or hefty savings accounts, it came as no surprise that the majority of her audience were elderly or retired Americans. Some victims referred to Bennett as a close friend because they would listen to her constantly. She was a friendly voice in their ears. With the reputation of a respected financial expert and plenty of needed exposure, Bennett started her quest towards creating her newest online venture, DJBennett.com. She used her radio personality and privilege to ask her friends and listeners for money to invest in her company. DJBennett.com aimed to become a leading online store for luxury items like designer clothes and accessories from brands like Barbour and Porsche. Bennett successfully netted 46 different investors, mostly older folks, for her company. But how exactly was she able to score so big? Bennett asked for her clients' investments and in return granted them promissory notes offering a 15% return on their investment. She promised to spend the money on backing the store's operations, expenses, and all costs involved. This, of course, was not true. For several years, Bennett secured single investments between $750,000 and $3 million, reaching a total of $20 million. Some of these investments came from her clients' retirement funds. As she had access to many of her wealthy clients' retirement savings, she advised them to invest in her company to guarantee their safety, telling them that the current stock market was too dangerous. To certify that her operation was legitimate, she provided them with fake financial statements that made her company look more profitable than it was. She assured investors their money was safe in DJB Holdings, her parent company, and all of its assets. DJB is the same company she used to get a $750,000 line of credit from a bank, falsely stating she had a brokerage account valued at over $4 million. It turns out the actual value of the portfolio was only $35.24, to be exact. A sole individual rarely operates a scam of this size on their own, and Bennett's case is no exception. Court reports found that much of Bennett's financial frauds were performed by her CFO, Bradley Masho. Masho had been accused of making false statements and inflating the company's profile to attract more business. According to authorities, Masho operated with Bennett's knowledge since no documents served as evidence that both of them had worked together in this part of the scheme. So, while legally they could not prove they were in cahoots, where there's smoke, there's fire. She promised her investors she'd use the money to fund her operations. Instead, Bennett used it to fund her lavish lifestyle. As a fan of luxury brands, it's not surprising Bennett spent her investors' money on herself. Court documents show she spent thousands upon thousands at Saks Fifth Avenue. Bennett also spent over $140,000 on astrological gems, including a single gem that went for almost $30,000. Luxurious vacations at the Ritz-Carlton and South Beach were also among her favorites. She paid $500,000 a year for a VIP box at the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas to watch the Dallas Cowboys. Bennett was unconventional, so her random $100,000 budget on cosmetic surgery made sense. But what surprised investigators the most was the $800,000 spent on religious rituals, where she arranged sessions with priests to protect her from authorities. At first, the spending wasn't a problem, as she was receiving single investments of $850,000 and more on a constant basis. But as time went by and her spending sprees kept increasing, she found herself paying off old investors with cash from new investors. She was running a bona fide Ponzi scheme. Her image cracked in 2005 when the SEC charged her company with fraudulently inflating her company's profile in an attempt to lure investors. Authorities became aware of how Bennett would speak to her customers about how investing in DJBennett.com was a profitable opportunity. She claimed her company was among the top 1% of firms in the world. A flat-out lie. Bennett used her radio show to make wild claims about her company's assets. She told listeners she was managing $2 billion when official documents show that it was around $400 million. Why would she need to inflate the number of $400 million, which was already impressive enough? She lied just to lie. According to the SEC, Bennett's company made several false claims about their profile between 2009 and 2011 at the height of their financial investment advisory. Bennett was ranked among the top women to invest with by Barron's. The SEC found that Bennett used her radio show on at least 18 occasions to speak about the fake assets the company was managing while simultaneously posting about it on their Facebook page. As if that wasn't enough, Bennett continued to misrepresent her company, claiming she had as high as $1.8 billion in assets under her belt. Her lies earned her the number 2 spot in Barron's top 100 women to invest with in Washington, D.C. 2011. The SEC was tipped off again when a bank representative from Old Line Bank, Maryland, found some suspicious activity in one of her clients' accounts. An older woman wanted to transfer around $32,000 to Bennett's company as part of an investment in DJBennett.com. The bank rep read the investment and felt it was too risky for a woman at that age. The bank did a background check on Bennett and discovered her prior investigation regarding her fake company role. A further investigation also found that she had misrepresented her company to Barron's. It wasn't long before her investors were looking for those 15% returns Bennett promised them. They started asking for full refunds, some breaking all communication with the company, only wanting to be notified when Bennett transferred their money. A wise woman herself, Bennett had written a literal excuse list she used to calm angry investors. Her favorite excuse was out on business travel. According to the FBI, Bennett stated she had traveled to China to avoid angry client calls, but there are no records of Bennett leaving the U.S. during that time. It didn't take long for investigators to realize that they had been scammed. Those promissory notes were worth less than a jar of dirt. Bennett was known for twisting information to convince her clients. In the case of John Dalmas, a 60-year-old woman from Maryland, Bennett told her and her husband that investing in her company was safer than investing in the stock market. The couple handed over $150,000 from their retirement account. Dalmas stated Bennett confirmed the millions of dollars she had in assets and how she was personally responsible for the promissory notes she had handed out. Now, Dalmas and her husband may never be able to retire. Another man in his 60s who invested in her company, Mark Hale, said he felt betrayed by Dawn. Hale had invested upwards of $200,000 in Bennett's company and now faces the possibility of not retiring. Overall, Bennett scammed 46 clients out of their money, raking in $20 million, almost $434,000 per victim. Bennett's case gets even weirder when the FBI raids her home. Inside, they found 2 freezers filled to the brim with frozen mason jars. In the mason jars, they found severed cow tongues. It was part of a ritual aimed at stopping the SEC from investigating her. Bennett split the tongues and recited an incantation to perform the spell, commanding the target to hold their tongue. The mason jars were inscribed with a person's initials that belonged to SEC agents. Bennett sought all the magical help she could get. She spent over $800,000 on religious ceremonies and rituals to throw investigators off her trail. Investigators found an excerpt of a letter she'd written these priests that described how she was in a very tough fight against her enemies and needed all the help she could get, black magic and all. When she was finally caught in 2019, Bennett received 20 years in prison. She was found guilty in 17 charges that ranged between securities, bank, and wire fraud. She also faced federal charges for conspiracy and making false statements for a loan application. She was held responsible for running the operations of a fraudulent Ponzi scheme in which she hurt 46 investors and stole $20 million from their savings and retirement accounts. She'll have to comply with an added 5-year period of supervised release when she has done time in prison. As for her accomplice, Brad Macho, he was sentenced to 30 months in prison for charges related to scam. He admitted to lying under oath when questioned about SEC claiming Bennett made to it. At her trial, Bennett claimed to be profoundly humiliated. But what for? Is she humiliated that she stole $20 million from unsuspecting people on the verge of their golden years? Or that she'd been dubbed the voodoo queen of Ponzi schemes? Click here to watch one of these next videos.